Hi there, I'm Rebecca and a really warm welcome back to my channel, PumpkinBecki. In this week's video we're going to do a catch up with my Cotoneaster horizontalis that I air layered last spring. Let's get started. I thought I'd be cheeky and do some cross-pollination with my other channel created by Rebecca this week. The t-shirt that I am wearing is a painting that I made on that channel, and I have popped it onto my Redbubble shop. Redbubble is one of these print-on-demand businesses, and you can have my original artwork printed on anything that I've selected. So it could be a t-shirt, it could be a tote bag, a mug, a notebook, stickers, postcards, art prints, canvas prints, prints on tin. There's a huge list, and I have a really nice selection of my artwork on there. There's some little cute dog simple designs, there's some more complicated art pieces like this. They often have a sale on. This t-shirt I got with something like 20% off, I think, and they've just recently done a 25% off. If I find a code I will pop it on the screen for you, and at the time of publishing the video it will be okay, but apologies if you're a little bit later coming to this video and that's finished. But if you sign up to them for email alerts, they will tell you when there's another sale on. And yes, I do earn money from it. It's my original artwork, and it's your way of being able to own a little bit of my original artwork if you like it. So this is the mother tree for these two air layers, and I began them this time last year, and then I actually removed them in about September time. My idea is to have a mame. I'm desperate for a mame tree, and I don't want it to just be like a seedling in a pot. I want it to actually be a nice chunky little mame. So I'm getting to work with styling this one, and we'll have a little look at that. I might see if I can compact the branches a little bit more for you today, maybe take off some of this extension growth. They've all done incredibly well. So this is the original plant. This is the big top that I took off, and it's doing incredibly well. It's had lots of flowers and it's now setting some fruit. So they're going to be lovely little berries. And this is one of the side branches that I took, and I think I've got plans for this to be some sort of cascade, if I remember rightly. We could start to build the crown here. I've got pieces here that could potentially be the cascade. And I've not done a huge amount with it so far, it's just sort of been getting its oomph back. This little tree was already in quite a small pot, but having removed most of the top of it, it's now much more in proportion with the tree itself. It has got some absolutely bonkers roots going on. Absolutely bonkers. I've done, from memory, no root work on this at all. I just literally did the air layer. And I think I just found this as a seedling in my garden. Birds had probably sown a seed for me. And it is starting to thicken up quite nicely. And when I talk about mame, I'm talking about reducing the tree into a pot a bit like this. Or perhaps sticking with the rectangle, something like this. It's going to depend on what those roots are doing once I actually get into doing some root pruning on those. That will not be this year, that's going to be next year. But it's important to have its future in mind when we look at working on this tree. This is the scar left by removing one of those air layers. And it is healing nicely. I only used callus mate on it, I didn't use an actual cut paste. But it's definitely rolling callus. And what's driving that is leaving this main leader, which is immediately above that wound, letting it grow straight up. I've put a little bit of a wibble in it, but nothing too much. What I would like to do is bring some of these branches back in. I'll probably take this side growth off. I don't want the tree wasting energy on producing these side shoots on this top one. I want this top one to pretty much just go. I did take a little cutting earlier in the year and it's just sitting in there. Maybe it's doing something, who knows. So the first thing I'm going to do is reduce these side shoots right down just to one leaf. And then leave that extension to just keep running. So because I have my big scar here, this will never be the front of my tree. The front is intended to be this side. And as you can see, the line is quite clear. I've got a little bud happening there, which I can just scratch off. I have already put some wire on this, a very small piece of wire. I treated these two branches as a pair and just popped a little bit of wire across the two of them. And I only did this, I don't know, a month ago. So it'll be interesting to see whether it has started to hold its shape. It actually looks like this particular one has. So that's good. You can see the little wiggle going on there. And yeah, this one's got a little bit of shape. You can see it does want to throw out very long, straight pieces of growth. So I don't know whether I would actually make that much of a difference by wiring the secondary stuff. You can see that you can compact the main primary growth. Here I've put some nice bends in. I can enhance those bends. It doesn't seem to mind that at all. But I'm wondering whether actually, you know, I'm going to need to just reduce the length of this growth, this extra secondary growth. Maybe I can do more cuttings. Tell you what, let's get a pot ready. I've just put a little bit of drainage mesh into the bottom of a flower pot. I've got some quite small scale Akadama, lava and pumice. I'm just going to stand that in a tray of water off to the side. And then as soon as we start to get elongating internodes, so where the space between each bud extends, I'm going to actually cut back. So I'm actually going to take this one back to, I'm going to come to here. Nice and clean. I'm going to just remove most of those leaves. A little bit of hormone rooting gel and dip the end into that. Pop the cutting into the pot. And then I will just use the Akadama to secure it. They often say that cuttings work better if they are up against the side of the pot, so we will do that. These are really tough little shrubs. You see them being used in car parks all over the place in the UK because they are just so tough and they don't mind being pruned. So that's great for us. They also naturally have these tiny little leaves, which again is great for us. If you didn't want to wire these, you could use them in a kind of clip and grow situation. You can see they make lots of little tiny buds. They bud back really readily. Even on old wood, as you saw, I had a new bud on the other side of the trunk here. And I guess that actually makes them a really fun beginner tree, because they can withstand a bit of rough housing, a bit of experimentation. I've always tended to use rooting hormone powder in the past, but I've seen lots of people using the gel, so I thought I would give it a try. So this may not be the final planting angle for this tree. Maybe once I look to pot it up into its marmite pot, I will, I don't know, change the angle. I am incredibly frugal with my wire and I will reuse it again and again, so no apologies from me for that. So I have just applied some wire again to these two branches. I've paired them up. I'm just going to clip the growing tip out of this branch. And what I'm aiming to do is compact the branch down by bending it quite a bit. And these Cotoneaster have really nice, flexible little branches. So again, for a beginner, really great because they can take quite a bit of hard learning. And I also want to make sure not only that I'm bending side to side in time with the buds, I also want to make sure I'm sort of doing up and down this so that it has a 3-dimension. So it goes side, 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 but then it also goes down, up, down, up. I'm just going to slightly tip that last leaf upwards. Squashing that leaf. That is one of the problems with Mame though. Everything is very small and very delicate, and before you know it, you've squished a leaf and it's come off. So I'm treating those two like little pads. I'm now going to come and pair this branch with this branch. Looking at it rationally, there's not much between them. They're only probably about 1mm difference in thickness, 1.5mm. But when you come down to this sort of scale, that actually is quite a big difference. But I think it's a better pairing than trying to pair this one with this one. This one is much, much slenderer even than this one, so I think they're the better two to pair together. And we pair together for strength and stability. Now try and follow the existing wire. So I don't cross over. Then my last branch to wire is this one. It is much, much easier to wire and style bigger branches. There is no argument about that at all. Not from me anyway. So yes, that's the mother tree done. I think in the fullness of time that's going to make quite an interesting little tree. As I say, it might mean that I change the planting angle. Really not sure at this stage, but the structure is coming along really nicely. We're getting quite a lot of movement round the tree. We've got branches pretty much everywhere. Right, we haven't got anything here, but this is the back of the tree and we can bring things around to sort of fill that space a little bit, and then round to be what I think is the front of the tree. Again, there's quite a lot of movement, but the trunk line itself is clear of growth, so we can see what's going on. Yeah, pleased with that one. It definitely needs a repot. It's pretty full of roots and it's got those really weird roots as well, and it's very soily, very organic, and it can dry out really quickly and form a kind of hard crust in the summer. So that kind of stuff definitely needs addressing, but that is a job for next year's repotting season. This little one, which was the side branch air layer that I took, is packed with lovely compact growth, absolutely packed. Sometimes it's easier to see really dense trees by looking from underneath. Now if we look at the actual trunk, it is very slender indeed. It does have a root that comes out the front here, but now is not the time to be doing anything with that. It's also got the piece of wire coming up that I used to try and bend it over. So I am really interested in this being a cascade. It's going to take a little bit of work to do it. We might be in a better position today actually. Let's investigate. Now this is Cotoneaster horizontalis, so it shouldn't mind being bent in these extreme ways to create a cascade style tree. Some really just don't appreciate being bent over like this. So my idea is that this branch is going to form a sort of top pad that you get on cascades, and then this is going to start to sort of spill over. We could be looking at something like that for this tree in the long run. Yeah, nice little Mame cascade. We have got to bear taper in mind. This branch coming out here is significantly thicker than this branch here. So if I wanted it to taper from sort of one junction to the next, really this should be my main cascade. It looks quite natural as a cascade. I think I'm going to reduce this. I could air layer it. Nope, I'm just going to do it as a hardwood cutting. So just remove my big structural piece of wire from this branch, and I am just going to come in and remove it. I'll give it a little stub so that maybe it would back bud a little bit. But that's now gone, and we've got everything really dinky in here. Okay. See, these things look like miniature trees already, don't they? Let's cut off most of this. Apply rooting hormone. So I can then bring this wire onto the cascade branch. Exaggerate that bend a little bit. Really difficult to see with the amount of foliage I've got. I'm going to reduce side shoots. And upward growing branches. So other than that main wiring to get the cascade in position, I'm probably just going to treat this like a clip and grow. And finally we come to the big piece of air layer that I took off the top of the mother tree. It's fattening up, it's putting out lots of new growth. I'm not sure whether whether I'm going to end up air layering this off. Maybe I will, and grow another little mame or two, or whether I actually now want to start styling this. This piece actually demonstrates quite well why I decided to do the air layering that I did on the original tree, and that's because there is very little taper all the way up here. It's all very similar thickness. So the only way to address that was to air layer off, and we then go from a thick piece of growth down to a really much finer piece of growth. I am going to air layer. I'm going to do it. I've got some sphagnum moss that I am just soaking, and in the meantime I'm going to come around with a knife and create a clean ring where there is no bark. This is a great time of year to do this. And as I said at the beginning, actually I did the last one in May as well, so you know, they worked. You want to create a bare piece of bark that is at least the diameter of the tree, if not bigger, and that will help prevent the tree bridging that gap all on its own, because it will try. There is lovely bright green cambium there. We're going to be scratching all of that off until we get down to the sort of harder inner core. When you're doing an air layer, the important bit to remember is that you're not going to get roots off here, you're not going to get roots off here, the roots are going to emerge from here. So it is important that that's a really nice clean wound. I'm not saying don't care about the rest of it, but that is where those roots are going to come from. Okay, we're getting through to the core now. We can see that it's a slightly different colour. There. So that's important. That means that this tree won't be able to bridge that gap. We've removed the cells that transport water, carbohydrates up and down the tree. It will now think it is only this tall, and this part of the tree will go, I need roots. That is our air layer all prepared. Just remove anything that's going to sort of impede the wrapping of that. So step 2 involves damp sphagnum moss, which is going to get packed around the trunk like that. And to keep it in place, we're going to use some black plastic. I've got a piece of black plastic that has come off a compost bag. Wrap it round the bottom of the cut. I'm going to secure this with a bit of wire. Taking care not to trap any of my other branches. I do want excess fluid to be able to drain out, so don't want it super duper tight. Now I'm going to take a little brush, and with my hormone rooting gel I'm going to paint it right the way round. the bottom of what will be the new tree. Oh dear, it's a woodlouse. Don't want you to get covered. And then we start to pack in the sphagnum moss. Pack the sphagnum moss in. Cut off the excess bag and making sure it's all nice and secure. And then just seal it up with some more wire. I hope you got to see some of that. Really tricky when you're doing something so small in such a small space. So now I just want to make sure that that tree remains well watered, and that I continue to make sure that the sphagnum moss is watered but not waterlogged. There's a gap here at the bottom which is going to let water drain out. To actually use this piece of wire to just sort of oink that branch across a bit so it doesn't rot off from the amount of water that's going to come through. That's fine. And there we go, potentially 8 new trees, 7 in there plus the air layer. Yeah, 8 new trees. Do get yourself one of these little Cotoneaster horizontalis. They are fantastic fun to play around with. I worried about doing anything with mine. I thought it'd be too fragile, just left it alone, and now I have started doing things with it. I'm so pleased. I'm learning so much from it. I think that is a really good morning's work. Please do consider going over to my Redbubble shop. That would mean the world to me, and helps me maintain this channel and created by Rebecca as well. And well, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share and subscribe to me here on YouTube, and until next time, bye.